All right, we're back. Episode 40. Does that sound right?
40.
My goodness, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Who's a famous number?
Big
40?
number.
Joe
I
Cardona.
can't think of anyone in basketball. Mike Allstott was number 40 in football, I think. Maybe 41.
Let me see.
Leahy will correct us one way or the other.
Yeah, we'll hear from him.
He's somehow already listening.
Yeah, he's just texted me.
I put my phone on silent, but we've already been corrected. I think he was number 40. If not, whatever. Call this one the Mike Allstott episode anyway. Good episode today. Kind of get back to our older format. Do our
Sean
thing.
Kemp.
Oh, good call. Good call. Was Mike Allstott number 40?
Let's see. I can do a quick Google search.
Sean Kemp, great call. Because then we have Dirk at 41.
Mike Morse Code Allstott, as they called him in high school. Yeah, number 40. Nicknamed the A Train.
That's a good one. I don't think I've ever heard that.
Yeah, married to Nicole, unfortunately.
What? Nicole,
his wife.
Allstott?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember Peyton Hillis from the NFL?
God.
He was on Madden one year and had like literally a one-hit wonder. That guy was fucking huge. You remember him? That running back on Cleveland?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever
Didn't last super long.
Not at all. Like one crazy season. I had him in fantasy in that one year. And then he went on Madden. Reason I bring it up, A, obviously kind of reminds me of Mike Allstott. And B, he had an odd number too. I think he was in the 40s. Maybe not. Because I think Mike Allstott was technically a fullback. I don't know what the hell Peyton Hillis was. But either way, shout out Peyton Hillis.
Snap back.
One way or the other. Yeah. Very, very debatable who the greatest Peyton of all time is playing NFL football.
Oh, yeah.
Peyton Hillis, and then I don't know if there was some other guys. None.
I can't think of any.
Mind. I can't.
First or last name as Peyton.
No. No, I can't think of either. I can't think of a quarterback or running back. Besides Peyton Hillis, obviously, all due respect. So shout out Peyton. Peyton's Place. Peyton's podcast. The Greater Peyton Podcast, Volume 1. Where were we? Episode 40. But no, we have this is going to be similar, I think, to an episode we did a little while back, probably like a few weeks or a month or so back. We have another sneaker professional on with us, sneaker connoisseur.
Yep.
Big Instagram personality, very similar to like we said when we kicked it with the OG sneaker nerd Brian about a month back. So you hooked it up. Before we get into what we're going to talk about, tell us a little bit about the guest we have coming up later real quick.
Yeah, cool dude. Again, like you said, another huge Instagram following. He's got a podcast, the Sneaker Podcast. It's scollard23. If you're on Instagram and you like Jordans especially, I think like if you hop on his page, you'll clearly see number one, Jordans. Number two, what his favorite one is, which we'll probably ask him about. But
yeah,
good show. They've got something like, I want to say 285 episodes. So they've been going for a while with 3 or 4 other guys. And yeah, if you just look at
it's
his,
a great show.
Look at his account. All the people he interacts with are also huge members of the sneaker community. So pretty sweet to be talking to guys who are like well known for shit that like other people consider to be hobbies.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you have 2 feet and prefer not to be barefoot, I think you're going to love this episode a lot. I think you're going to get a lot out of it.
I feel like even if you don't, we could at least talk you into checking it out. You think so?
Good point. If you don't check off those boxes, I would go into this episode with an open mind, to say the least.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it goes. But no, cool to kick it with. Looking forward to kicking it with him in a little bit. Before that, though, let's see what's going on. The other cool thing, before I get too sidetracked, I want to talk to him about. You kind of mentioned his podcast. Like it's the Sneaker Podcast. That's the name of the podcast.
Yep.
Like that's pretty dope. And also it's kind of like, kind of in the same breath, it's the Morse code podcast with the sneaker podcast.
Very similar.
Curious though. I don't know. I don't know how many like actual Morse code podcasts we compete with on a daily basis, but I also don't know how you would listen to a Morse code podcast. Doesn't really seem something very audio friendly, but anyway, I don't know.
No one knows how many like hoops we had to jump through to get this name.
Oh boy, a lot of afternoons spent in the courtroom, boardroom, bathroom. Like,
yeah, you've heard of red tape?
Mm-hmm.
That's all we had for a while.
Yeah, we were originally called the Red Tape Podcast.
Yeah,
and then that just didn't make as much sense, so we changed it. Excuse me, we got sued for that, then we changed it. Anyway, we'll talk to him all about his podcast. So we'll check it out whenever you guys can. But before we do that, I mean, we're going to talk obviously some basketball today, some hoops. Like I said, these guys and Sean in particular, very into the Jordan era, the Bulls era. Probably talk some Last Dance as well, just because that's basically, still one of the hotter things going around right now for a younger audience. So see how that goes. But anyway, speaking of basketball, it's been quite a weekend. I mean, we've got NBA playoffs going in full effect, right into the second round. Oh, I know some stuff you wanted to get to. We should touch on the Celtics. I don't think we've talked since Game 3, correct?
I think it was. Yeah, it was.
Maybe we talked.
It was right
Game
before
2,
then.
But yeah, okay. So Game 2 was fine. Oh, we recorded the night of Game 2, actually.
Yeah.
That's when we recorded with Money Mav. So they won that game. Game 3, it's like.
That one hurt. I'll say it.
Yeah, I was looking for the appropriate way to put it. That one hurt big time. Losing that game stunk. Losing that game the way they lost it just really didn't sit well with me for quite some time. I've never been more like excited or pumped for a Game 4 than the other day. And then that game, I don't know how else to describe it than just utter like disappointment.
Big
like
time.
That was just not great, dude. And yeah, Toronto played well. They were shooting particularly well early on, actually throughout the whole game. Bro, Celtics, Boston, they just I think I said it on Twitter or something. Dude, they looked like they were hungover. Like Jaylen Brown looked like he was hungover. Like they looked like they were at Magic City the night before. They were playing a regular season game in Miami. Yeah. Like that was just not a good look. No effort, out rebounded, out hustled. Shooting is what it is. They shot like shit, but I mean, sometimes that's not necessarily an effort thing. The most frustrating part is just the rebounds and the hustle plays. And the crazy thing is they hung around basically that whole game. I mean, if I watched like that first quarter without seeing like a scoreboard, I wouldn't have been shocked if I saw a final score, Toronto won by like 15 or 20. Not a lot of good things came out of that game. Now it's 2-2 and stinks. Like if this was a real pre-COVID scenario, we'd be going back for Game 5 in Toronto. That's a fucking nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess that's one silver lining with this whole thing. But I actually wanted to ask you about this. I thought this was interesting. So I never really thought about it while it was happening, but I think I saw some other people talk about it or an article or something. So that Game 3 loss, just to rewind, that what we thought was the game-winning play by Boston was sick, by the way. That pass from Kemba to Tice.
Yep.
And in 0.5 seconds left. And the bubble, not the bubble, but, not being at an actual home court did make that last play interesting. I'm sure you've seen it. Like they literally show Lowry had a lot more room to operate on the baseline than usual. Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking, first of all, that was a crazy, I'll give him, that was a phenomenal pass. Still inexcusable for that guy to be that open. I don't know. I got mad at Jaylen at first, but maybe you know this. I also read that I think it was someone else's man and Jaylen switched on to him at the last second. I think someone else actually blew that coverage.
Yeah, it was basically Tice.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the crux of it is though, they shouldn't have been in a switching situation to begin with half a second to go on the clock. Just play man and take your chances. If you got to switch, like for why?
Just you can't play man for half a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take your chances. If they make the shot, then so be it. But yeah, if you're gonna get like clearly, as soon as you saw the ball leave Lowry's hands, it was like, oh fuck, that guy's gonna be
Yep.
pretty
He's
open
gonna
for
get a
this
clean
shot.
look. Yep.
Yeah, and he
Yep.
did, and he made it. And it's like, why would you play zone? It's not even a full possession. It's just inbound, and they have to take a shot. Literally makes no sense to play any other defense. So
it was a very odd time to experiment with a new defense. I mean, I'm not an NBA coach or anything, but I would save that for the next day's practice. But anyway, but the other thing, great shot is what it is. The other thing is from OG's standpoint on the baseline, picture that shot, like that camera angle at the Garden. That's a completely different scenario, completely different shot. Lowry's, Lowry doesn't have as much room to operate, but dude, that shot in the corner that night in the Garden, you have people literally on top of you.
Yep.
Not only screaming in your, but physically right on top of you. That shot's not going in. I don't care how clear it was. And especially by someone like that. Maybe if that was like Kawhi or DeRozan or someone taking that shot back last year before, maybe that shit ain't happening in Boston in that scenario. That place would have been fucking electric.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's part of the deal. It is what it is. I'm not blaming it on that. Only that shot shouldn't have happened. But at the same time, is what it is. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't complain about it if it was Boston. So Anyway, that's besides the point. Game 4 was a must win, and they just came out and threw up a dud. That stunk. And now it's 2 out of 3 out of a very dangerous, very streaky team. Who, to be perfectly honest, games 1 and 2, Toronto was just streaking in the wrong direction. A poor streak, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And then they were streaking the right way.
Blue streak.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Shout out Martin Lawrence. Shout out Dave Chappelle, friend of the program. So I don't know. We got a Labor Day showdown tomorrow. If they win tomorrow, I'll feel okay. If they lose tomorrow, I don't know. I'm afraid to say this. I don't either. I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say I think Toronto will win in 6, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. And then what else? Clippers lost today, though. My goodness. And the other series in the East is even crazier. Miami's up 3-0 on the Bucks. And before you get into some of your stuff you want to talk about that, I did want to pick your brain on this. I think you somewhat agree with me, but I don't think we've talked about it. I was talking either on Twitter or with someone today. Is it just me, or maybe I just don't remember, but are there more, are we overreacting? Not even overreacting, just reacting in general on a game-by-game basis now than any time?
Yeah, definitely.
It's
100%.
Crazy. Like every game, the narratives just flip and flop. Like think back, like the Lakers-Blazers series. Lakers lose that first game. It's like, oh my God, like I really think the Blazers are going to sweep this series. Like LeBron and AD, they aren't shit. He needs more weapons around him. Dame Lillard is a top 3 player in the NBA. And it's like, whoa. And then they gentlemen sweep him in a week. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's what's supposed to happen. Yep. Same thing in like the Clippers series. We're starting to compare Luka Doncic to Larry Bird and all this other stuff. And, Paul George stinks and Kawhi should have gone to the Lakers and this and that. And they handle their business. And then what else? All the Giannis stuff. Like I see a different Giannis jersey swap on Twitter every time I log in. And it's like slow down. Like maybe after 3-0, okay, but after that game 1 loss, it's like let's like this is a series. Like let's see what happens. This isn't the fucking March Madness. What are some other ones? Even the Celtics series. Celtics in Toronto. It's like, yeah, they went up 2-0. I didn't think they were going to sweep. I thought maybe best case scenario 5 if they won game 3. After they lost game 3, it's like this is a toss up at best. It's just destined to go to a best of 3 series. Any others that you remember that stick out that you've seen? It's just been crazy hot takes like fired left and right.
This isn't necessarily a hot take.
You're defining takes.
Yeah,
for certain people.
Definitely like distinct takes. Like there's no middle grounds here.
Like I think Skip Bayless is on drugs.
Yeah. Big time. Anyone who's like good, Skip Bayless thinks the absolute opposite. Yeah. But this isn't a take, but the reactions that came out of the Nuggets Jazz series with every game that Donovan had 50 plus, or every game that Jamal Murray was dropping a ton of points, which to be fair, yeah, they absolutely are. And they're playing their asses off. But at the same time, you do have to take it with a grain of salt that number one, this is a completely unique situation. These guys aren't even playing in front of real fans. So maybe there's just like no pressure of the real playoffs. Like players have said that. So it's a little easier to do that. And number two, it's just they're playing in a league in an era where offense is not at a premium, but it's just such a points driven league. Hot take, points have always mattered. Now they seem to matter even more because teams are scoring like 120, 130 regularly in regulation. So
Yeah, I agree.
it's like people are quick to put these
call.
guys in the pantheon of all-time greats, and they've been phenomenal. But no, I'm not going to say
Jamal Murray is fucking Reggie Miller apparently.
Yeah,
he like went off and had a hot series. I mean, Donovan. I don't know. Do you think Donovan Mitchell is better than Jamal Murray?
that's tough.
Really? I feel like that's not that tough.
Who do you think is better?
Donovan Mitchell.
Okay.
But I know you don't.
Well,
love
I was
Mitchell,
leaning towards Mitchell because of his athleticism.
I even just mean like consensus wise. Like I bet if you pulled, I bet majority of people know who Jamal Murray is.
Yeah.
And I do think Donovan Mitchell is better too, as a player.
Yeah, I think nationally people would agree that the opinion is Donovan over Jamal.
And he had a great series. Both of them did, but Jamal Murray had a great series. And that's fine. But now it's just crazy. It's like everything is such a game by game basis, and they go right back and forth after another. Like Kawhi, the other night, Kawhi had 0 points in the fourth quarter, and everything on Twitter is like, oh, like, you're going to come after Bron for doing that. Like, you better kill Kawhi. Like, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, I don't see that series going beyond 6, probably 5. If I had odds on betting on it. I just think, you know what I mean? It's like this narrative, it's going to be a completely different story in 48 hours because what is the Clippers supposed to go 16-0 in the playoffs? Is Giannis? Is anyone else? Like shit happens. Like it's a game. Like you can't predict what's going to happen, but I don't remember in recent, I figured too, it might have to do with just the state of sports in general. There's only so much you can talk about. You kind of have to keep people engaged. And that's kind of sad too. We've talked about that. How sports personalities now, media personalities, their brand is basically their takes and like their stances on things. And they almost, it's hard to tell what's genuine anymore. Like we've talked about it before, like guys like Clay Travis, and now honestly, Skip Bayless is just, no matter what happens, it's like, okay, I'm a Dame and LeBron hater. I need to find a way to do that. But that might not be what you actually think. It can't be what you actually think to that extent. You know what I mean? No matter what happened, he always had to find a way to do it. And his counterpart, Shannon Sharp, is a pro LeBron guy. So he has to go that way. It's just, it's more, these guys are just
Skip.
Yeah. Skip. He is hilarious. I actually like watching Shannon Sharp.
Very entertaining.
Very, very odd couple. A couple of guys. But I don't know. That's why, honestly, man, it's like, I'm not just saying this, like some of the people we've had on our show. That's why I kind of like having like some of the local, I don't want to say smaller guys, but more local guys. Cause dude, they're just telling how it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like, look at like, I don't know if this is a good example, but even like Felger and Maz, like Mike Felger is certainly not a homer.
No,
but I also think he might buy into that side just like some of these other guys.
Yeah.
It's like the Patriots don't always stink. They do some good things in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
like,
they got a few things right, I'd say.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's just, it's entertaining. I will say this, the games themselves, just as I said, I don't remember any time like this when it was this many, back and forth opinions based on game by game. On the court, the games are insane. Like I can't remember a really bad game across the whole league. There's been a couple of blowouts. There's been a couple of casual 10-point wins. We just had overtime today with the Bucks. Celtics Raptors game 3 might have been one of the greatest playoff finishes of all time. It's just fucking crazy. Like you said, Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell going 50 back at each other. Crazy. LeBron's doing his thing. The Dame narrative. Can't complain there. On the court, everything is great. It's just different. It's just always going to be like that different. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We talked about this earlier too. A lot of people talked about going into the season, since it's going to be so different, if you view, the champion with an asterisk or anything like that. I think that narrative's pretty much dead. I think at this point, to me, this is playoff basketball. you know?
Yeah.
Maybe more I've heard that argument too. Maybe more challenging this year than ever. But this year more than ever feels like a true, and obviously there was because of the calendar, but a true separation between regular season and this being more of like a true like tournament, almost like an AAU tournament in more ways than one. But anyway, that's that. Just wanted to get that shit off my chest. Not literally, if you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I'm looking at your chest. I didn't see anything.
Shitless, clean. You had some thoughts on Giannis and the Bucks series so far. Go ahead.
Shit chestless. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to, I mean, it's 3-1. I wish this segment would have we got a few minutes here before Sean hops on with us. The series is 3-1 in favor of Miami. I wish it was sweet, but it is what it is. But I think that the Greek Freak, that name, I think that could use some revising, especially if they get eliminated from the playoffs.
Okay.
So I have a couple ideas.
I'll hear you out.
Greek Fraud.
That would certainly sell some newspapers.
Oh yeah.
The greater Milwaukee area.
I think people would read that in the Wisconsin Sentinel, whatever the fuck their paper is.
Wisconsin Globe.
If he misses the finals for a third straight year, the Greek Streak.
Can't write the stuff.
No.
Speaking of streaks. I hope someone writes it, but I can't write it.
No, absolutely. If they miss the finals, he's probably going to leave, and it's probably going to be.
Is he a free agent like after this year?
Actually, is he?
Or I thought he wasn't, but that's the way it sounds. Either way, it's the NBA.
Either way, you can force a trade. You could sign a contract one day and then force a trade the next.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the Durant story all over again, going to Golden State. So if he leaves, no backbone, the weak Greek.
I can see that.
Hard to do anything without a backbone.
You think he might go home to Greece?
The Greek?
Go like full Greek. Or like audition for Grease the musical?
Honestly, he might have a better chance with the Greek national team than the Bucks.
Oh, that's disrespectful.
Yeah, that is. That's not true.
I thought he was the Greek national team. It's just Giannis and four other like fat, out of shape, like pizza shop owners or like gyro shop owners or whatever the fuck they have around here.
Yeah,
and they're still pretty competitive. They're 500 ball club. Giannis and the Euro Steppers, Euro Step Sisters. Oh, Giannis.
Euro Step Sisters of the traveling. No, what is it?
No, that's about right.
Yeah, whatever.
Step Sisters of the traveling pants. Actually, he is a freak. You remember? You've seen something about Giannis.
Oh, he's
that
a
story about
freak.
his blowjob button.
Yeah, he's freaky.
He's freaking.
That
dude.
name was given for different reasons, but it's fit for other reasons.
Yeah, he ironically got in really good like freakish shape, but he's been the Greek freak since like middle school. Super freak.
All these stories coming out about where he's gonna go. Like first it was Golden State, then it was Miami, then I saw Dallas.
I've seen all of them, bro.
All these
Denver,
rumors.
Dallas, LA. I've seen them all.
The Greek leak.
Oh yeah, trying to get like a team. Oh, that's been leaked. That grease has been leaked.
Big leak.
Big oil grease leak on aisle 12.
What is it? Leaky lips sink ships. Think.
Greasy lips, greasy hips.
Greek frequent flyer miles. Because he's out of there.
He's fucking out of there.
He's traveling in more ways than one, constantly traveling.
I bet his wingspan is long enough where he could compete with a smaller plane, especially on the runway before they get airborne. That'd be a good like sports science pay-per-view special.
I know you're a big like aviation guy, but he definitely could compete with like a Cessna.
I don't know what that is. Small plane?
Yeah.
Like a puddle jumper?
Yeah.
Sounds like a racial slur somehow, but it's actually a term for a small plane. Fucking puddle jumpers. Giannis. That's a good nickname, the puddle jumper. You ever been in like a really small plane like that? Even like a commercial flight, like a connector?
I'm not sure that I would ever
It's scary.
consent to that.
No, not like that, but like a very small plane, like 30 people or something like that.
No, I've only been in like a commercial, like whatever you see on TV. I've never been in a smaller plane.
Mm-hmm. It's freaky. Freaky and freaky.
The fans' reactions in the streets. There's going to be a lot of crying and a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming. There's going to be some Greek shrieks.
Yeah. Yep. God, as if Milwaukee hasn't been through enough in recent time. They got to deal with this fucking guy.
I mean, already we're not even in the off season yet, and this story is getting very old. Antique Greek.
I mean, you got to pick one to write the story. I guess it's still time to see what happens. I don't know. What if they win? Like, what if they win the finals? I'd still leave. Like, this situation still stinks.
I'd still leave just to get one of these headlines off.
Yeah.
Today, I mean, he left the game with a sprained ankle. You got to question his Greek physique.
The narrative is a great physique. I'm not sure I'm buying it.
now it's under scrutiny.
I mean, you said it before, bro. You were kind of interacting with friends of the program, the guys over at Dunkbait. This guy's a target for a lot of slander.
Yeah,
just saying.
Deion
I don't know
Slanders.
if it's warranted or not.
Yeah, he's the subject of my second to last one.
Of course. All right.
Greek critique. Plenty of it. He's going to get headlines from Greece to Graponiano parts in New Hampshire.
It's a global story.
Yeah.
He's a global freak. International.
The only other thing, like, I feel like the only suggestion I could give to him to help him out is my last one.
Okay.
Just leave basketball altogether.
There's an angle.
Open up a Greek boutique. I don't know what the hell he would sell.
I don't know.
Some
I don't think
Greek
it matters.
Trinkets.
He'd just be like a Greek influencer.
Sell basketballs.
Sell like a bunch of his shit. He'd make more
Sell
money
hoops.
selling his own stuff.
Yeah.
And then when he runs out of it, I guess orders some inventory for other stuff. But that should float him for at least a year. He sold his shoes every game for $1,000. It's 82 grand. Like that. I'm not even our business consultant. That's all Brian. But if Brian isn't selling our shoes at the end of every episode, then that Q3 performance review is going to be a rude awakening.
Yep. All right. Well, that takes us to the interview. Sean is patiently waiting. So we're gonna
this might be our first live transition.
So we're gonna transition live, and if
it doesn't work, transition live.
Yeah,
we can transition live.
Yeah, we'll transition live.
You guys won't know the difference.
Yeah. All right. So here comes Sean.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Welcome back to the Morse Code Podcast. I'll get the number right this time. It's episode number 40. We did just say that it was the Sean Kemp episode. So, without further ado, Dan's here with me. Soapy Prip, Cambodian Prince, and a very special guest. We gave him a little description earlier, but a guy who, if you're on Instagram and you like sneakers, Jordans, specifically the twos, you got to follow at scollard23, Sean Collard.
I'm going to get a whole new two new followers out of
I was going to say, that's not a big market.
If you're into the twos,
yeah,
it's the exact number of new followers I'll get. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you having me on.
Definitely, man. Actually, let's start there. So about the twos, you mentioned earlier, I think you said, Sean, there might be a good story, or kind of how'd that come about to be, how'd the twos become kind of your favorite Jordans, your go-tos?
Well, I'll shout out my friend Brian, OG Sneaker Nerd, because our stories are very similar. He was he's I think 2 years younger than I am, so we were just a few years behind each other when it comes to our stories. But it all begins and ends with Michael Jordan, and so I was 13 years old in 1987. Yes, I'm that old, people. Yes, I'm that old. You guys are quickly doing math right now.
Yeah, we won't publish what year this came out, so no one will be
good.
able to figure it out.
Yeah. No, but I was
Could you
13
give
years
us
old.
a brief synopsis of who's this Michael Jordan cat that
Okay, so
I keep seeing?
let me rewind. Okay, so there was long ago. Oh, okay. So yeah, in 1987, I was 13, 14 years old, and I saw the 1987 dunk contest, obviously with Michael Jordan in it, where he won his first one, and I'd been playing basketball by that time since I was about 9, I guess, 8 or 8, maybe 8 even. And it was just sort of a progression when you're into basketball. When you play basketball, you want to wear the sneakers that your idols are wearing. So before Michael Jordan, I was a huge Magic Johnson fan, Showtime Lakers. And so I wanted, like, my first sneakers I remember ever wanting were the Converse Pro Stars that Magic Johnson used to wear in like 84, around there. And then obviously the Jordans hit the scene, and then Air Jordan, this buzz about his sneakers was coming around, and the crazy colors and stuff. And I got my first pair of Jordans in 85, which I didn't get the leather ones. I got the black and red AJKOs in 85. And for $19.99. So this is a long story leading up to why I like the twos.
No,
But
we like
sort
this
of my
stuff.
my backstory. But so I got my first pair. My mom agreed. I was like, I was into Magic Johnson, but there was this buzz about these Air Jordans and Michael Jordan, obviously, and I was starting to kind of like gravitate towards what he was doing. And I was still young at the time. I was like 12, I guess, maybe 11. And I remember going to tournaments and stuff because I was already playing in a city team. And I remember going to tournaments and seeing the older guys playing and seeing all these cool looking Nikes with all different colors and like this Wings logo. And I kept looking for, I remember seeing like, is that an Air Jordan? Because they look very similar to Dunks. Like if you back in the day, it was like, you think, oh yeah, the Jordan 1 is so iconic, but when you look at a Jordan 1 back in 1985, it's like, is that a dunk? Is it not a dunk? But yeah, I would look for that Wings logo. That would be like, okay, there it is, and it says Air Jordan. Okay, but so I'd see these guys wearing these Air Jordans and the older guys wearing them, and I wanted a pair, but they were a little more expensive than my mom wanted to pay. But eventually, I wore her down, and we saw these canvas versions at our local sports store. And they were $19.99. I was like, my mom's like, well, if you get a good, marks in your report card or something like that, and she's like, I'll get them for you. So I worked hard. I got my first pair of Air Jordans in 1985 were the canvas. I didn't ever feel like they were real Jordans though, because they were canvas. It said AJKO. It didn't say Air Jordan on the side. So I actually ended up giving those away a few years later, which is a huge mistake. I still regret to this day. Long story short, cup to the next year or 87, I saw the dunk contest. I was like, immediately, I couldn't believe what I was watching because it was the first time I ever seen someone. I know Dr. J did it too, but I saw Jordan dunk from the free throw line. But it was just the double clutch and the floating through the air, and it was just like and I needed to have those shoes. Couldn't tell what they were really. They were all white with the black midsole. Then cut to a few months later, I saw the Air Jordan Imagination commercial, and Brian showed you guys the poster of that, right?
Yeah.
So the Jordan, I saw the he's in a dark gym. There's like a baseline, and he does the rock the cradle dunk, and there's a close up on the shoes, and it looks like he's going up an invisible flight of stairs. And I was like, holy shit, what is this? One of those shoes, and then they do a close up on of just the shoes at the end. It says Air Jordan. It's all in the imagination, and I had to have them immediately. Unfortunately, they were $100 back in 1987, which was a huge amount of money for a single mom who was a teacher at the time.
Yeah.
And so I remember she said, not knowing they were $100. I remember she said, okay, I'll get them for you for this coming season, which was like the 87-88 season for my basketball team and for my basketball season. And so we were going to, I live in Canada. And so we were going to a tournament in upstate New York. If you go to we'll find them there. Cause I thought they're probably like the same prices, like a Converse weapon or something like that, which is at the time you could probably get for like $30, $40. I had no idea they were going to be so expensive. So we get to the mall in upstate New York, and I remember running to the Foot Locker. I remember vividly running to the Foot Locker, and I see them there. They're on the shelf. I grab them and I look at the sticker, and they're $100. And my mom's like, no chance, no way. So the problem with that is that it quickly became like I wanted them, and now I'm obsessed because I'm not allowed to have them.
Right, exactly.
They were banned to me. And so that's kind of where it took off. And then I remember my grandmother, like in the winter of '88, so January of '88 was going on my grandparents were going on a trip to California. And she's like, if you want for like a late Christmas present kind of thing, I'll get you the Air Jordan, those sneakers that you want. I was like, holy shit, it's happening.
Shout out, Grandma.
It's all happening.
Yeah.
What's up, Grammy?
So, yeah, exactly. So she was my OG plug for sure.
Yeah.
So I like literally like cut out pictures of sneakers on of the Jordan 2s out of magazines, and I like glued them to a piece of paper, and I told them like what size, I wrote her what size I need and all that stuff. So they were going to traveling through California for a month. And I was checking in with her like every so often. It was getting closer to the end of January. Now it's like beginning of February, and she couldn't find. I know, knowing my grandmother, she was like literally looking everywhere she could, and it's probably driving my grandfather nuts. So she called me maybe like a week. It was just after All-Star Weekend. I think it was just after in '88, so like early February. And she said, she went to this Foot Locker in Beverly Hills. And the manager there said they don't have these Air Jordans, but they're getting a new pair of Air Jordans in, and would I want those instead? And I didn't know. Like at that time, we didn't know like there was going to be an annual thing, right? This is like the second Air Jordan,
one.
and the third one was coming out. We didn't know because there's no precedent. This was the first signature series that was having an annual model come out. So so I was like, yeah, sure, I guess. Okay, disappointed, but at the same time, I'm going to get a new pair of Air Jordans, right? But now I've seen the '88 dunk contest, and I didn't know what he was wearing, and I saw they were white. I'm like, did they like paint or like color the heel of it gray or something of the 2s? They weren't called 2s back then; they were just called Air Jordans. But so I didn't know if it was just like a modified, like a different color of the 2s. And then when she called me and said they have these new ones coming out, I was like, okay, sure. And again, a bit disappointed. And then she came home a couple of weeks later, and I opened the box, and it was the white cement 3. She's like, "Do you want these? You're getting white ones or black ones?" And I said, "I'll choose the white ones because I just seen the dunk contest, and even though he wore the black ones in the game, I love that dunk contest." So
I'll take one of each.
Yeah, exactly. I wish.
I'll take the left one will be white, and then the right one will be black.
Exactly.
I was gonna say some OG 3s isn't a bad consolation prize.
Man, and that's
maybe
the thing,
at the time. Who knows?
As soon as I opened the box, I was like, "Holy shit!" I was in love. I was hooked.
I was gonna say. So, what did you think? Were you like, "This is way better than the 2" at the time?
I still want. No, to be honest with you, I was in love with them, but I still was like pining for the 2. Like I was to the point where when I'd gone through a whole season of wearing these to play ball in, and then played like summer ball and like outdoor ball, and there was like a hole in the bottom of the sole. I took a Sharpie and painted the entire midsole black to make it look more like a 2.
Nice.
So I was still obsessed, but I from the get-go, like I live in Montreal, Canada. I don't know that I knew anybody. I never saw anybody wearing them the White Smith 3s anywhere up here. I'm to the point where the first time I wore them was in a tournament that we were in. And I was on the court, and I was running down the court on a fast break, and people were literally following me down the sidelines, yelling at me, where did you get those shoes? Where did you get those shoes? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I gotta catch this pass, and I'll be with you in a second.
Hilarious.
So that felt good, obviously. So that made me feel like I was onto something here, and then it just exploded from there. My love for Jordans has now lasted, 30 years.
That's a good story. I mean, you were young too. I mean, that's like middle school basketball.
Exactly. Yeah,
I sure as shit wasn't wearing Jordans playing middle school basketball.
I was very lucky.
I wasn't able
my
to
pair
swim
before
that
that
with
were
my parents.
my pair before that were the Converse weapons. That was my must-have back when the Magic Johnson color weapons.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my first pairs I really like needed to have. And then I got the Converse Cons for that basketball season for 87, 88. And then I got the White Cement 3s in February, and that was it. Did my first dunk at 14 in my White Cement 3s. That solidified it for me.
Damn. Yeah, I feel like my first dunk is coming in, I don't know, probably a couple of years. And I'll make sure to have the 2s on so I can send you a picture.
There you go.
Yeah.
But, it really is all in the imagination then, isn't it?
Yes.
It's hilarious that you said it was hard to tell on TV what he was wearing at the time, because if you watch any YouTube highlights of Jordan or whatever, it kind of is hard to tell. And now we're at a stage where in 2020 the shoes are so fucking detailed. You could play NBA 2K20 and be like, "Oh, I want what fucking Dion Waiters is wearing."
Exactly.
Like some stupid shit like that. And that's how detailed it is now.
It's so true. Like I know Brian mentioned the same thing, but we like to catch a glimpse of the sneakers. you'd hope to see it on TV, and you maybe if you had happened to record the game on a VCR, Google that, guys. You might be able to pause it and then kind of like look at it closely. But even then, it was nothing. So you bank on like getting a magazine. I know Brian says he loves to tell a story about how we would steal magazines from dentist office and stuff. But,
I mean, I kind of remember that too. Like we're both 31. So we kind of, and this is one of the coolest things we talked about Brian with. Like you guys are at that age where we watch Michael, like Sophie just said, we watch Michael Jordan on YouTube. Yeah. And like The Last Dance. Like I was like 3, 4, 5, 6 years old during that run. I wasn't watching basketball every night.
For sure.
It must be kind of cool to kind of like grow up with that. But even like us, I remember Sports Illustrated for kids was my shit back in the day.
Yeah. Of course.
Doctors' offices and stuff.
Yeah,
but
man.
I think there's something to that though. Like actually having a tangible thing, like waiting for the new edition to come out and
it was a great feeling.
Find it and see it and put on your wall and like all that
stuff.
But
we knew every year there would be the new Air Jordan ad in like the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. So like that was a bonus, you know, like and you'd look for that, you know, a swing. No, I swear I just got it for the Air Jordan ad.
I just read the articles.
But so it's true. It's exactly what you're saying. It's like that tangible thing that I'd cut it out and like tape it to my wall and I'd stare at those Air Jordan pictures for days and weeks and years.
Okay, now you just go on your phone, you fucking Google.
That's it, man. What does the outsole of a 17 look like again? Let me just Google that for a second.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So let me ask you this, Sean. So you mentioned you're from Montreal. You still live there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
So
shout out. I didn't even plan on this.
Oh wow.
My wife went to a bachelorette party there a couple of years ago.
Very cool. Very cool.
Shout out Les Habitants.
Yes.
Oh yes, the Montreal Canadiens. Yes. Oh, please break out your French. Go ahead.
That's about it.
Was that it?
I could. Maybe at the very end of the show I will.
Okay, perfect.
But episode.
One thing I'm kind of curious about is like would you consider yourself you like sneakers. We've established that.
Yes.
Did you ever think it would get to a point where here in America people are kicking the shit out of each other to get a pair of Air Jordans, like waiting in line? In Montreal, do you just like shake each other's hands and politely ask? Like,
we say sorry. If we get in front of each other, we say sorry. Or
here, take mine.
Sorry.
But no, did you ever think it would get to this point?
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, my stepdad, who's been my stepdad since I was like 14, so he's my dad. But he's from New York City originally, so I would visit New York City quite frequently from the time I was like 15 on. So I saw the madness. But at the same time, growing up in Montreal, Canada, it was like, there was no. I mean, we didn't get every release up here, but we got most stuff. Sometimes you'd have to go downtown to get it, but like our local mall was great. Got my black cement 4s at my local Foot Locker in my local mall back in '89. I got my white cement 4s at the same Foot Locker. But yeah, so it's there really wasn't. It was such to be in a time where it was like you could just literally walk in whenever you wanted and buy a pair of sneakers that was on the wall. Yeah. That you saw Michael Jordan wearing a month, a month to 6 months ago, whatever it was. It's really for a long time it's been frustrating for me as an older sneakerhead to like try to fight for what I want to get, whether it's online or even it's gotten for some reason it's gotten better the last year or two, I find, but for me personally, but it's definitely. Watching what would go down in the States was with you guys. It was
crazy,
it was
right?
Nuts. Because
now there's a lot of like resale. Like there's like the GOAT app and StockX and stuff like that. I mean, you can go online and buy them. Obviously, overpriced
for sure.
But yeah, I mean, some of those. And again, Soapy, you're probably more into this than I am. But when was that like really going on? Like, are there still lines out the door for sneaker releases and like. I didn't want to use the word riots, but like, you know, shit like that, like still going on now. I remember it from a while ago before kind of the apps became big.
Yeah, I don't think it's as crazy as it is now. And actually, Sean, maybe you've heard more. I don't think it's like obviously pre-COVID.
Maybe you've kicked someone's ass.
Yes, maybe you've been on the giving end of one of those ass whoopings.
Maybe that's how you and Brian met. We never even asked.
That's right. We have a two-man geriatric gang. We go around beating up kids for their Air Jordans.
Any chance that you had a store
with our walkers?
Yeah. Any chance that you had a store called Dillard's in Montreal?
Oh, I know Dillard's, but we don't have a Dillard's up here in Canada.
Yeah, that was
I heard Brian's story about Dillard's. Yes,
but it's funny because
I've been in a Dillard's before.
He basically said the same thing. Like, you know, a shoe would come out, you would go to the mall, and you would buy it.
Yeah,
and that was the transaction. That was it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got I got the black infrared 6s in '91. I got them, I think, 4 or 5 months after they get released. Like, so it's
I mean, the other thing I was thinking before, because I want you to talk about some of the other stuff you have going on too, but on the same kick, no pun intended. I mean, you kind of mentioned your original story about the 2s and 3s as you were playing as a kid. So were you the type, and again, as a kid, it's really not in your control, but were you the type of person who had, I'd wear the 3s this year, then I'd buy the 4s and the 5s and 6, blah, blah, blah. Was that pretty consistent as far as playing in?
Once I got the white cement 3s, then I got the later that year I got the fire red 3s. But nice. Then I think I got the white cement 4s, and it was an annual thing, I guess.
And you were playing in those.
I was playing, yeah. So I destroyed it, with the exception of my Carmine 6s. I destroyed, and my black infrared 6s. I destroyed every one of them playing, but the Carmine 6s I got to play college ball in, and then I was 18. Oh, okay. I already had enough by the time I was ready to play college ball.
Where'd you play college? Where'd you go to school?
I was playing up here in Canada. The local colleges recruited me up here, and then I had interest from the States too. Like a couple upstate New York colleges wanted me to go down. My plan was to go, because we were actually in
Syracuse.
Not Syracuse, no.
That's like
it was like a division. It was Division 2. It was
Syracuse Tech.
Union College in Schenectady. It was one of the first one. I was 16 years old. So
I know that place. Yeah.
There you go. I think it's 2 or 3. But anyway, my plan was to do it. Yeah. Like I was 7. We graduate high school here in when you're 17 in grade 11, the 11th grade. So and then we go to like a mandatory 2-year, sort of like a junior, called CJIP, but it's basically a junior college. So I was going to play college ball here and then go down to the States. And then about a month into my first year at playing college here, I was like, you know what? I was burnt out by that time. I was playing for 2 teams throughout high school. I was playing summer league, and by the time I hit 18, I was like, I was fried. I just didn't have the desire to play anymore. So I ended up quitting. So the last pair I bought to play ball in was the Carmine 6s. And because I bought them to play ball in, and I ended up quitting, I just never felt right wearing them to play, because I wasn't playing ball anymore, because they were for ball. Right. So I never wore them. And so I still have them dead stock to this day. Damn. But long story short, and there's been a lot of that long story short thing happening here today, I guess.
No, you're good.
But so I did buy them every year to play for sure. Yeah. That's cool. It was all about playing ball.
So what did you wear to school? Like, what were your casual shoes?
I guess the previous years, they were beaters by that time, but I would wear the previous year's model and like a new ones for the season. Yeah.
Yeah. These old 3s I have laying around.
Yeah. I mean, they were just, when I say beat, they were really? Destroyed. But yeah. But the thing was, like, I went to a high school of probably 1,500 students, and I think my friend and I were like the only ones who really were into sneakers. Yeah. Like, obviously the guys on my team were into sneakers to play ball in, but they weren't like, I was already obsessed by the time I was like 13, 14 years old with sneakers. It was, and I was like taking pictures of my sneakers and video and stuff. If you look at my Instagram page, you'll see stuff like old video of me like documenting my infrared 6s, and like it's nuts.
That's crazy, especially at that time, like having no idea. I mean, like you said it, like the Jordan 2s weren't even called the Jordan 2s. You know what I mean?
Just it's
my new model of sneakers. Yeah. It's crazy how that's kind of evolved and become such a, obviously now it's a retro thing. Yeah. But for people, in your, I guess, age range, it was just, those were the shoes we bought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
But you want to wear what? Sorry to cut you off, but I didn't.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you would want to wear whatever your favorite player was wearing.
Exactly.
It was, like I got into tennis later in high school, and I was because of Andre Agassi. And so I wanted to get the AirTech Challenge. So I got the AirTech Challenge to play tennis in. And it's like, it's whatever it was something to connect you to your heroes, your sports heroes. It was really all about that for me, and still is really.
Definitely. I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the magazines and stuff. There's just something different about that. Like, you flip through the magazine, Sports Illustrated, there's 50 athletes in there. You're flipping through to find the one guy, me and Sophie are from the Boston area. So for example, we're flipping through to find Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. We don't give a shit about anyone else.
Yeah.
That's what we put on our wall.
Exactly.
And that's one of the cool, I've always, not to go on a tangent here, but I've been around, it seems like all three of us have been around sports pretty much our whole life. There's more to sports than like just the game itself. Like sports matter. Like there's kids, and again, I'm not saying I'm one of those people, but there's kids who sports is that's it. And they don't have any heroes. They don't have any real role models.
Yeah.
They look up to Michael Jordan. They look up to LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, whoever it is. That shit matters. You know what I mean? So it's not just, hey, I'm not just buying these sneakers because I want to look cool. Like I want to be like Mike.
I want to be connected to that guy. Who's
absolutely.
My idol. Yeah, for
that's maybe the simplest and greatest marketing campaign of all time. I want to be like that guy.
Absolutely.
No problem.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a pair of here's your sneakers and here's your Gatorade bottle. There you go. You're just like Mike now.
Yep, you can do what I can do.
Yeah.
Didn't work out for me as well. But anyway, let's do this. I want to transition to this. So you're also a part of a very successful and popular podcast as well. Go figure. It's mostly about sneakers. So you are part of, I know it's not just your show, but you're part of the Sneaker Podcast.
Yeah,
exactly. Which you can find everywhere. I think you guys are up to like 4 or 5 seasons now. Crazy.
Yeah, we're on season 5, almost like 3/4 of the way through season 5. So yeah, it's been a while. You guys have
That's
been.
great.
I joined about a year or 2 after they started. But yeah, it's been fun. Yeah. The Sneaker Podcast. You can't miss it.
The Sneaker Podcast.
The Sneaker
That's
Podcast.
the craziest
It's such an arrogant title.
I love it.
Such an arrogant name.
that's perfect.
We are
one
the
of
Sneaker
one.
Podcast.
No one else can say that shit.
Exactly.
So how did, maybe, I don't know if I was, kind of before we started recording, you kind of gave us a little inside look at how, when you got involved and stuff, but I was going to ask you how it came to be, but if you don't know that, that's fine. How did you kind of get involved with the show? And if you know how the show came to be, if that's a story.
I do.
Well,
yeah. So the guys in the Sneaker Podcast, the main guys are Mike D, Mike Dahl. He's on there with Mike D. Shout out. And then Christopher Chu at Christopher.Chu. Shout out. That's my obligatory shout outs for the night. But yeah, so they sort of met, I think, at a media thing up here. Mike was working in radio. He was actually on air, an on air DJ, thus on air with Mike D. And Chris was heavily into sneakers, and I can't remember what he was doing at the time work wise, but they sort of met at this function, started talking just literally out of nowhere, and figured out they were both into sneakers. Mike said, I'm a radio guy. You're into sneakers. Let's start a podcast. And it was literally that simple. So they got them. There was the two of them and a couple of, maybe a year later. It was one of those things where you talk about it for like a year and then it finally happened.
Yeah.
So, but a year later, they got a couple of other friends together and they started the podcast, and they were doing pretty well for a couple of years, and getting their feet wet in the whole thing. And then I honestly, we all live in the same city. Mike has since moved to Toronto, but we all lived in the same city and we weren't aware of each other. And what kind of clued them into my existence in their own city was that I got invited to the grand opening of the Jordan store in Toronto, which was a huge thing for me. I was blown away. So I got to take part in the panel discussion and stuff like that. So I guess word got around that this local guy from Montreal was invited to the Jordan store grand opening in Toronto. And so they had me on as a guest. And then it was sort of became like a recurring thing. I was on every couple of weeks, maybe not every couple of weeks, maybe once every couple of months. And then they eventually just asked me if I want to join full time. So that was nice. That's how I joined. Yeah.
And so when did the show start? Like what year were we talking about?
Man, I'm gonna say roughly probably like 2016, maybe something like that. Because 2015, 2016. Because I joined in I was on first time I was on in 2017. So yeah, probably 2015. Around there.
Okay, cool. No, it's a great show. I was catching up with a few episodes today. I've listened to it here and there.
Oh,
I wanted to actually kind of
subscribe, rate, leave a review.
Yes, that's what they call in the biz a pitch.
Suggestion? Demand?
I was going to say demand.
We call them demands. Soap calls the
list of demands.
Yeah, our brief list of demands. But no, I actually wanted to not pick your brain, but I figured chat a little bit. We kind of alluded to at the beginning of the show some Last Dance documentary stuff. I was listening to an episode today. You guys were chopping it up a bit about, I think it was like the last half of the Last Dance, like the last handful of episodes,
yes.
which was great because it almost triggered me to come back and watch again myself. It's on Netflix, by the way, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think obviously I watched it when it came out, but I think I did like binge it in order again.
Right.
I want to ask you guys about this. So I thought this was an interesting combo you guys had. Two things, actually. The first one, it was about the flu game in Utah, which has since been kind of rebranded as the food poisoning pizza game. But as you guys mentioned before, that, for at least real Jordan fans, that wasn't breaking news. I mean, that's been known.
Yeah.
The flu game maybe just sounds better. I don't know. Maybe it's more like widely accepted.
Better flow to it, maybe.
Yeah. And you guys were kind of joking around about, and I thought the documentary did a great job on this too, kind of explaining it from Tim Grover's point of view, who I've talked about this on the show. Quick side thing. I love Tim Grover. I'm a huge Tim Grover guy. I think he's one of the more fascinating people to listen to and follow. It sounds like you are as well.
For sure.
If you follow him on social, or he does a lot now, like personal development and stuff like that. But I could listen to him talk about, workout schedules with MJ and Kobe and Dwayne Wade all day. I
would love a documentary just on Grover.
Me too,
amazing.
Man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the way, and how he talks, he's like, Michael was hungry, so he said, "Fuck, we gotta get Michael a pizza." He's like, I called all over the place. 5 places, no one's open. One place in town ordered a pizza, and these 5 guys come over, and then there was debate: was it 5? Was it 2? Was it 3?
Yeah.
Whatever. I would, and you guys kind of joked about it from there on. I don't think Sophie and we've really never talked about this, but I was thinking about it today. It's kind of I don't really imagine how it was you had to move very quickly to get the call, think it was Mike. Okay, we're in the finals. Fuck this guy. Let's poison his pizza, and I'll bring it to him. And it kind of reminded me. The only thing I could somewhat think of comparing is, again, we're from the Boston area, so there was the whole Deflategate thing with Tom Brady and the NFL recently. That's the closest thing I can think of. Those 2 ball boys, just we got to win this game tonight. Let's take a little air for Brady. Maybe he'll like it and talk about it.
Yeah.
And then we saw how that turned out. But no, I thought that was an hilarious segment you guys were talking about. But the actual question I had, speaking of, long story short, was on another one. You mentioned you were also talking about the segment about the Pacers series as well. And I don't remember this, but you guys brought it up after Mike retired. It sounds like they featured Reggie Miller on the Slam cover, wearing, I think, the 15s.
The 15s, yeah.
What you guys said?
Yes, yeah.
And I never even thought about this, because you were like, they Mike must have gave his blessing or something for that to happen.
Yeah.
So during that time, was it if you had your sneaker line, were you the only ones who wore those sneakers? Because now there's people wearing Kyrie's, there's people wearing Kobe's, there's people wearing whatever. Was he the first one to really wear the Jordans after Jordan?
There were a handful of people that wore Jordans in 1 or 2 games.
I was going to say,
while Jordan
happened,
was playing.
But
it was very.
Really thought about it.
No, I guess from the perspective of, first of all, I think Michael Jordan was only the first guy to have a signature line. Maybe Clyde, not Clyde Drexler, but Clyde Fraser from the Knicks, back in the 60s and 70s. He had his Pumas. But this was an Air Jordan, it was named after him. So it was there was that
no question about it.
Yeah, that was the precedent was set with him.
Yeah,
and it was kind of seen as you don't wear the sneakers of your opponents. So
and that makes perfect sense. I never thought about that, honestly, till you guys brought it up, because we talked about at the beginning of the show, how much you follow current NBA and stuff. But there's guys like PJ Tucker's a big one. He's I'll wear the new Kyries, the new LeBrons, new KDs, Kobe, obviously not current, but, and I just never thought about that. There's only so many shoes you can wear.
Right.
Everybody has a shoe line now.
But I guess you had your sneaker deal, and you wore whatever sneakers they gave you, right? So if you're signed with Nike, you wore whatever, sneakers that were out that current year in your colorway, in whatever color your uniform was.
Yeah.
But again, there was, I think I remember seeing Kevin Johnson from the Phoenix Suns wearing the Air Jordan 4 once in '89.
And Mike probably hung 60 on him.
Probably, exactly. Well, I don't think he was playing against Mike when he wore them, which is probably a good move.
Good point.
But he was in Sports Illustrated, I'm sure. So I'm sure wearing them. So I'm sure Mike took it personally and dropped 60 the next time they saw them.
While wearing a pair of Kevin Johnsons.
Exactly. Go back to your Air Flight 89s there, buddy.
Yeah.
So it just wasn't done. It really wasn't done. It was very rare to see someone wearing an Air Jordan besides Michael Jordan. It was very, very rare. Occasionally a teammate, I know Scottie Pippen wore them when Michael came back, but even he wore the 10s, like when that whole
famous shot,
showing the bottom of the 10s there. But then he wore them, like he wore the 12s a couple of times, and he wore I think the Jumpman Pros maybe once or twice.
Well, Pippen had a shoe too, didn't he?
Yes, he had a series of shoes. Yeah, exactly. And he wasn't his signature shoe, but the Air More Up Tempo was sort of his sneaker, but not his line. But yeah, it just wasn't done back in the day. You weren't there. Whereas I kind of like that. What PG Tucker's doing, he'll wear anything on the floor. It's very cool to watch.
Multiple shoes a game too.
Of sneakers. Yeah, exactly. So it's cool, but at the same time, I do like the idea that it's like when it's your sneaker, and people.
I agree. I agree.
Don't wear the sneaker of your opponent.
Almost like definitely not that. Almost like an unwritten rule type of thing. Like, bro, get your own fucking deal.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I would never do it as the guy that's. Like, if you were my opponent, I wouldn't wear the opponent's shoe because I'd be like, well, why do I have to wear your shoe to make me look cool?
Right.
That's already like
or perform better
in your win column. Like,
exactly.
Fuck that. I'll wear a fucking sandal
barefoot
before I do that. I'll wear the Tevas.
Why would you want to give Michael Jordan the satisfaction of seeing his shoes on your feet?
Exactly.
Very good point.
I think there's been guys who talked about that with both Jordan and I want to say I've heard stories about that with Kobe too, because like Kobe's had a ton of guys throughout the league wear his shoes throughout the years too. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to let Kobe bust my ass while I'm wearing his shoes.
His shoes.
Right, exactly.
That's so true.
Yeah.
What do you, Sean, what do you think about how, this kind of brings me to a good question about present day shoe game in the league. What do you think about how, so pretty much every player, if you watch an NBA game, 10 players on the court, there's 10 different pairs of shoes. Yeah. And that's because whether some guys have signatures like the marquee players, and then other guys are pretty much everyone is signed to someone for the most part. And then they get their player exclusives. Do you think that's kind of whack, number one? And number two, does it make it less special? And number two, do you wish that or how do you feel about even the star guys, the fact that like LeBron or KD or Giannis, they wear a different colorway pretty much every game. So it's like it's not as special as Jordan wearing essentially
black
two, white, maybe three colors throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, it definitely makes it tough for I almost feel for kids who are looking up to these guys and wanting to like attach themselves to a particular player, because it's almost impossible to like, okay, you might get one of the sneakers that they wore throughout the year, one game throughout the year. Yeah. But I think the bigger thing for me is there's so many PEs out there that people can't even get. Like that's what I'm saying. Like my favorite part of growing up when I did was that you could literally watch someone play something on TV in a pair of sneakers and then go to the store and get the exact same pair of sneakers.
Yep.
So that's kind of not a thing anymore. I mean, there are certain models that you can get and colorways you can get, but they're wearing a lot of PEs, which I don't get from a marketing standpoint, even where if you're wanting people to buy the product, but you're putting the player in a pair that no one can get, what's the point of that?
The only way that you can get them is actually, like we talked about earlier,
kill someone.
If you want to hop on 2K20, exactly. If you want to kill someone,
you got to earn.
But if you want to hop on 2K20 and just buy them with your, I don't play the game, but I know that there's credits in a store and stuff like that. So like,
you seem to know an awful lot about it for a guy who doesn't play.
Like you could do that, but I also just think it's so lame to me. I'm gonna have to pick like an obscure player to do this with, and hopefully this player never hears this, but I know we're a popular show, but like I don't know, I hate turning on the game and us being Celtics fans, I see like Abdel Nader, he's on the Thunder now, but if I see him in a pair of Abdel Nader PEs, I'm like, why the fuck do I care about what he's wearing? Why did Nike why do they even give him a shoe that he gets to have his name on? Like I would sell as many sneakers that had my name as Abdel Nader. Yeah. So why do these, 15th guy on the team get shoes? I don't know.
Everybody
I'm in the minority on that, but I just think it's lame.
No, I think you're right.
No, I think it's fair. And to Sean's point, from a marketing standpoint, it's not something I even remember like growing up with. Like to your point, you could watch a season of Bulls basketball and be like, all right, here comes Mike. There are the shoes. That's it. I got him right here.
Exactly.
Let's go.
With the exception
10-year-old kid, it's like you're glued. You're going to watch every game.
Exactly. And you want to
feel
see
like
the
a
same
rock
shoes.
star.
You want to see him rocking those shoes. And with the exception of like later in his career in like 98 and 90 finals or playoffs, he broke out a couple of PEs of the 13s. But, and then I guess the fives in 1990, his fives had 23 on the side. And they didn't release with the 23 on the side with the fire of the 3M tongue. But besides that, you could go, I mean, they were identical shoes. They just had 23 on his pair. Besides that, you could go to the store and get the same sneakers that he was wearing. And not like a different quality sneaker, like it was the same sneaker, you know? And I feel like there's so much, it's so oversaturated, the market in general. Like, why would you now make kids want to buy a pair of sneakers that they'll never be able to own unless they're millionaires and happen to be able to buy them from LeBron James himself?
Right. Yeah. No, good point. I did want to kind of rewind real quick. There was one more question I meant to ask you when we were talking about Last Dance, because I thought this was interesting too. Not to keep going back to that, but maybe it's recency bias because I just listened to you guys talk about it. You mentioned, I don't know if it was you particular, one of you guys, I think you spent some time kind of talking about some of your favorite, I don't know, segments or parts, whatever you want to call it. Because I remember one guy, it might have been Chris. Is he the Pacers fan?
Chris is actually a Celtics fan, but he does like the Pacers.
But he's a Larry Bird fan, right? That's why he liked the Pacers that year.
Exactly.
That's why.
Yes, exactly.
And he was talking about like the Reggie Miller part. I was gonna ask you what were some of your favorite like segments or parts from the documentary that you got to kind of relive?
Oh man,
or maybe see for the first time.
I watched it live when it aired on ESPN on every weekend.
Well, you also saw it happen when the game.
Well, that was the thing too. It was cool to see the behind the scenes stuff, obviously, but it was all cool to relive a lot of stuff, and that was it just kept reinforcing the fact of how lucky I felt to be able to grow up in that era. It was. Yeah. As much as I feel shitty being 46 years old now, I was very fortunate. I was actually just having a conversation with my wife the other day, like how fortunate I was to like grow up watching Michael Jordan. The whole era, Michael Jordan, Andre Agassi, Wayne Gretzky, Mike Tyson. I mean, it was like there were icons like in every sport. It was so much fun growing up. I don't see that as much nowadays, and maybe it's because again, everything's more saturated. But
I would agree. I mean,
it doesn't feel like there's that as much, and maybe that was such a iconic period that it's hard to live up to. But obviously, you got like LeBron James and people like that, and but what was the question again? My favorite part of the series. It was just reliving it, but also the craziest thing for me was watching Michael Jordan, his interviews in that. I had never seen him be so candid in my entire life since I've
like the current day interviews. Yes,
definitely.
When you guys mentioned that, they were talking about the cocaine circus thing.
Yeah, and see him like legit belly laugh. I know that sounds weird, but my entire life I've never seen Michael Jordan laugh genuinely like that. It was always like a ha ha ha, a guarded. He was always so guarded around the media. And so even to him swearing was great. I love the fact that I saw him swearing for the first time in my life. Those were the moments that was because I'd seen a lot of the footage before. Yeah. But those were the types of moments I was like, that was really cool to see him like as a human being. I mean, he's a disturbed human being, I think, but he's a human being. Nonetheless,
he's got some flaws.
A few. But I think oddly enough, I can't pinpoint. I mean, I pick a few moments, but in terms of that meant something to me was just seeing him like let loose and be open with the interviewer.
I mean, it seemed like all those guys for the most part. Obviously, it was based around Mike for the most part, but like, Dennis is fucking Dennis. Even like some of the role players, like Steve Kerr had a fucking crazy story about his dad. That shit.
I was gonna say that story about his dad. That was I did not know that at all, and so hear that that's how his dad died.
Actually, you guys were joking around like the first time Mike and Steve mentioned about both their dads being murdered and like kind of how that came up. Like, oh, my dad was murdered.
Your dad's dead. Oh, my dad was murdered too. Yeah, let's be friends.
But no, that was wild. I think, I don't know, for some reason, one part that really stuck with me, and again, it might be recency bias. I talk about this all the time, but my wife and I have a 1-year-old son. And that Father's Day segment against the Sonics was just I thought they put that together great because it started out, and you guys touched on this too with the Gary Payton stuff, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, oh, laughing him off, became a big meme, and then it
glove
just
was
hits
not
the
a problem.
game.
The glove was not a problem.
No.
That's the one thing. Yeah, you said him laughing. Apparently,
Yeah.
you end any joke with Gary Payton's name, and he'll just be like, he's laughing.
Yeah.
The glove.
But the part at the end where like the music cuts and it's just the raw footage of him just weeping on like just done. Like I have no control over my emotions.
Yeah, because I've
that was a great scene.
We've all seen. I assume we've all seen that footage of him crying on the floor after that the fourth championship.
Yep.
But I'd never heard the audio before.
Oh my god!
To hear him, like you said, heaving and sobbing, it was like I got
laid
choked
out
up.
on the floor, just grabbing the trophy.
Yeah,
exactly. That was a great scene.
In a similar way, when he won his first championship, we've all seen the images of him crying with his dad, his arm around his shoulder. But what I had never seen before, and what they showed in this documentary, was that he was sitting alone with the trophy at one point, and just kind of with a small smile on his face. Yeah. And then his dad sat down next to him and put his arm around him, and then he looked at his dad, and then he started sobbing.
Yeah.
That's when he let loose, when his dad put his arm around him, and that got to me, man. That
definitely
really, another
me
point
too.
Got to me
and then I remember back to the Father's Day scene. It was his another great another part of the show was his right hand man, the guy. He was his driver, just met him at the airport, became like a great story. George, yeah. And he's talking, he's like, you watch all this footage, like, where's his dad? Right next to him. Every championship, iconic photos. Yes. And that's what Mike said. He's like, I had no problem with the glove. Ha ha. I had other shit on my mind.
Exactly. Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, that was brutal. Yeah. It was brutal to watch that.
But yeah, no, I thought that was a very, very well put together. It was just so fucking hyped up. I was like, this can't be as good as it, because we were joking earlier. Remember when it wasn't supposed to be released this early?
No.
Quarantine kind of rushed things.
Yeah.
Before, I remember when the trailer first dropped, we joke about this all the time. It's like, holy shit, like this is insane. Coming like 3 years from now. It's like, oh, great.
And it was supposed to come out last year, and then they bumped it to this year, and then luckily we got a little earlier. But it was supposed to come out, I think in July or something.
It was around it was like after the finals wrapped up.
Yeah. Special release with the Air Jordan 38.
Exactly. You get a VHS copy with every pair of Jordan.
The 40th anniversary of the Air Jordans.
But no, that was a great. We might even just plug that one directly. That's a great episode to go back and listen to you guys talking about that.
Oh, thanks, man. We had fun.
That shit was really funny. But what else? Soap, go ahead. I didn't mean to kind of hug up here. I know we're coming up a little bit on time, but
no. Another thing to kind of go off of the whole Last Dance is that second three-peat team had some strong shoe lines between MJ, Scotty, and Dennis. Like even Dennis's shoes are now super popular. Is it the Nike Destruct?
Yeah, Shake and Destruct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What we're just kind of going off of that. Aside from that 87 and 88 dunk contest, what are some of your favorite Jordan-related shoe moments?
Oh man,
like in-game moments.
I could ask Brian the same question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you. Came up with it myself.
I mean, there's so many. That's the problem. It's there's a 69-point game. There's the moment in the 89 playoffs against the Pistons. I'm sure you guys seen it. They showed it in the documentary, obviously, also. But when there's a ball going out of bounds, Jordan flips it back in. I can't remember if it's to Scotty, and then Scotty sends it back to Mike, and then Mike goes up and great.
No look.
The biggest the biggest asshole in the history of basketball. Bill Laimbeer is about to clothesline him, and he does a spin, like a 180 spin, and flips it over his head.
Yeah.
In the black cement fours, or people nowadays call them the bread fours, but it's that was one of my favorite moments ever. Just I still hate the Pistons so badly. That's one of my favorite moments. I mean,
them too.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, of course. Yeah. The black infrared sixes, winning his first championship was that was huge. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like there's too many for me to really pinpoint, because like I said, watching the entire career was like every year was like a gift, man. It was. I know it sounds corny, but it really was. It was crazy to be a part of and be a part of it, to watch it and witness it.
That's not an exaggeration. Like we said, it's like it's not. I mean, I will say the NBA's been great since then.
Yeah, of course.
But you don't have. We talked about this too. Like not even Mike, just that Bulls team in general.
Yeah.
they're like those scenes when they go over to Barcelona and shit like that. They were the Beatles. Like they were just fucking bigger than life. That shit doesn't happen anymore.
No, and that's what I was glad that it showed, because people obviously a generation goes by and it's like, what was the big deal? We have great players now too. Yes,
not like that.
Absolutely, of course, you have a ton of great players. The NBA is still great, but it was a phenomenon. It was unlike anything that I think will ever happen again, I assume. Because they were like the Beatles, no matter where they went. It was like people were coming in by the thousands just to catch a glimpse of them coming out of a hotel room. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore. I mean, LeBron might have some of that, but even LeBron, I don't think has it to the extent that the MJ and the Bulls had back in the 90s. It was crazy.
Yeah, and we've talked about it too. I think the biggest part of it is the environment. It's like today, if I want to see LeBron James, I go on Instagram and interact with LeBron James. I go on YouTube. I go on SportsCenter. Back in the day,
too accessible now.
Exactly. You want to meet Michael Jordan? That's a once in a lifetime. You are rushing to buy a ticket. You are rushing. Like they should. Like the autograph is dead. Like which is so sad. One of the coolest parts of the show was just it took Dennis Rodman 45 minutes to leave every game because there's fucking kids, trying to get his autograph.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just, it just doesn't happen anymore.
Exactly.
There's no mystery or like mystique to these guys anymore because we know everything that they want us to know about them. We know because they put it out on social media.
Yeah, we know where they are 24/7 and we can watch them on YouTube. Every game has a 3-hour pre and post game show.
It's crazy.
Just, you know what I mean?
There's too much content. There's way too much content.
Absolutely. I would love to have Dennis Rodman in today's day and age.
Oh man, yeah. I wonder how
he's not looking well.
I know.
He barely got through that documentary.
I know. But to see like his trips live to like Las Vegas, you catch him live on Instagram Live or something.
Oh my God, he would be banned instantly. He'd have to keep creating new accounts
for sure.
That was one of the better parts too, because I'm a big wrestling guy too. So reliving like Dennis Rodman, and I didn't know I know he did his thing with like WCW and Hulk Hogan and stuff. I didn't fucking realize how close that was. I didn't realize he played in the finals on Sunday. Went to Nitro Monday, and then
I completely forgotten about that. That was crazy.
Because this goes back to like our age too, but I was like probably 9, 10, or 11 or something. So I was more into wrestling at the time than basketball. But I knew about the Bulls. And I remember I talked about this on the podcast. I remember one night watching Monday Nitro and Dennis Rodman coming out and my dad walking by and doing like a double take, like, is that fucking Dennis Rodman?
Yes, and it sure is Dennis
Hulk
Rodman.
Hogan's tag team partner.
What's Rodman doing on the top buckle?
There should be no buckle involved when talking about Dennis Rodman.
But no, some of that stuff. Talking about like the great production scenes, the Father's Day scene, and then that outro to intro, I think episode like 3 and 4, talking about Rodman's mini vacation was
phenomenal. So good. And then the fact that Jordan had to go get him out of the hotel or his apartment. I initially thought he had to go, he went to Las Vegas when they teed that up at the end of that episode. I thought he was going to Las Vegas to get him, but it turns out he had come back from Las Vegas but just wasn't showing up at the practice, and he lived in apartments.
I didn't know that. I thought he went to Vegas to get him.
Yeah, no, he lived in an apartment across the street from the Chicago Stadium. Not Chicago Stadium, but the United Center. Yeah. And so Michael Jordan did go across the street and went to his apartment to drag him out of bed. But
that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
Because the best part was Mike's just like, hey, Phil, give this guy 40 hours. This dude's not coming back in 40 hours.
Exactly. And when you see him shuffling in with his pajama bottoms after, that's literally
hilarious.
Because he came across the street from his apartment with his pajamas on still.
We've joked about that before. Those are great scenes because it's like they cut from like fucking, drills and stretching, and then there's Dennis on like an exercise in his pajamas, literally just trying to like get back to planet Earth.
Jonesing for a kamikaze.
Well, imagine living in downtown Chicago and then on a fucking 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning, you see him and Carmen Electra like doing the walk of shame across the street.
No, you see Mike crossing the street, coming out literally like dragging Dennis Rodman by the hand across the street.
What
in
times.
his pajamas. And then,
but now we would have had all kinds of people filming it with their phones. Right?
Exactly. That'd have been on Twitter in 5 seconds.
Exactly. Not hearing about it 20, 30 years later.
100%. That's why we're doing about this too. We're like, we first we talked about what's like the next big documentary like this. There's not going to be a documentary like this. If the LeBron has a documentary, we're watching it on Instagram right now. Like, it's not going to be any unfound footage. Maybe when he was in like middle school or something like that.
Right.
But, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
like
although
there
was the Kobe documentary was fantastic. I thought that was
very good.
There are a lot of good documentaries,
Showtime,
but like you're not going to get a 10-hour documentary on anybody right now.
Hell no. One last question. I know we're coming up on about an hour. We want to respect your time. I need to ask you this because this is something that's been bothering me for a while. So, I talk about here and there. You're a big Jordan guy, obviously.
Yeah.
You know how arguably the most relentlessly competitive athlete of all time, maybe the most competitive person of all time, from fucking throwing quarters with his security guys to whatever, playing golf with what's his face.
Yeah.
How is he so bad at being an owner? Not even being bad, but just like he's not an absentee owner, but the Hornets, Bobcats, they're worse. They're just irrelevant. Yeah. I would picture Michael Jordan just doing like hammering every meeting, every free agent, everything to make this team better. Do you think he's just burnt out? Do you think he doesn't give a shit, or it's just not what he's meant to do?
I think it goes back to
he must hate the status of this team. Right?
He must. I almost feel like it's because he's so competitive. Because it almost probably bothers him that he can't be out there doing it himself.
That's a good point. He used
to
joke about that.
He's probably
like,
sabotaging his own career as a team owner.
That's a very fair point. There used to be videos of him fucking playing one-on-one with the rookies in jeans.
Yes. Yeah. And winning.
Killing Steven Jackson and like Gerald Wallace.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, dude.
That's a very good point.
Tuck in your shirt into your jeans and go back to the office and like run shit. Stop playing against people. But, for me as a fan, I any chance to see Michael Jordan on the court, I'd love it. But
sure.
It's true. It's I don't know. It might be something sort of self-sabotaging that he's doing. I don't know.
That's fair.
I wish I could have a good answer for you, but I don't know because I don't know what he's doing.
Thoughts on Michael Jordan as a dresser?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Is there a person who has such a incredibly popular, stylish clothing line to just the guy in general?
When he was
he
dressed
dresses
by
like he did
Nike.
in the documentary.
I know. When he was dressed by Nike in his tracksuits and stuff, he was on them. He was money. But when
he was getting paid for it,
left to his own devices, I know the baggy jeans and the tucked in with the tight belt. I know. He's got some things to work on, but he's 57 now, so cut the guy some slack.
He's I'd say he's had arguably a successful life up until now.
He's done all right. I
can make that argument.
Yeah.
Some of the style from that documentary in general are great. Some of the suits and that's Scottie Pippen's 5XL suit.
Exactly. But that's the thing too, is like in the 90s, everything was baggy. Everything was baggy and crazy.
Yeah, of course.
So it's almost like he just kind of kept that. He never outgrew the 90s.
Like Austin Powers. He just went like a time machine.
Exactly.
No one told him things have changed.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So why don't you, anything else before we wrap up with Sean?
Quick one, Sean. What do you think of, so you see how much gear the guys are wearing today, and this is something that I asked Brian, between their shooting sleeves, the leg sleeves, the compression wraps,
finger sleeves,
sleeves, nasal
finger sleeves, eye patch, you name it,
chest protectors, rib protectors.
There are some
pads.
There are some stories about guys like Scottie Pippen and Patrick Ewing who had to take some precautions back in the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure. Yes.
But thoughts on the oversaturation of just gear that's being worn?
I mean, I guess whatever helps you feel comfortable on court. But I know it did piss me off when Melo played for the Knicks, because my dad being obviously I was a Bulls fan, but my stepdad was growing up in New York City was a huge and still is a huge Knicks fan. I feel bad for him at this point. But
lots of prayers.
The Knicks are sort of my sort of home team, as it were, because my dad followed them for so long. But watching
tough
Melo
90s
play,
for him.
Oh, it was tough in my house. I tell you that, it was tough in my house. I'd hear he'd watch in the basement, and I'd be upstairs in our den, and I'd hear him, "Fuck,
this is our year."
Or if I'd watch a game of the Bulls Knicks game with him, he was actually quite respectful. I just hear him under his breath going, "He's so good. He's so fucking good. I can't."
What do you mean he's coming out of retirement?
Exactly. But I'm watching Melo for the years when he's with the Knicks. I know he would wear these rib protectors, and I'd be like, "Fuck, man, grow
you're not a running
balls.
back. Yeah,
Stop it, dude. I know it's a rough league, but we're not talking about you're not playing against the bad boy Pistons of the '80s.
Yeah, I forgot.
You're not really going to take an elbow to the ribs.
Yeah.
So to that extent, I'm like, it's a little soft. But in terms of like, what if it's going to help your muscles? The lifespan of your muscles. Fine. So is this bullshit resting they want to do.
Yep.
But whatever. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Jordan wore a calf sleeve and a knee sleeve for most of his career, and wore a finger thing when he had to, or a wrist thing when he had to. But usually when he had an injury that he was playing through and not sitting.
I just think it used to look so clean because he was one of the few that wore that stuff, and it was very calculated. And now pretty much all the guys wear that stuff. And
I mean, they're wearing pajamas. They're wearing pajamas under their uniform. Like some guys wear full legit, sleeves like the pants and leg sleeves.
Yep.
I hate the Melo and Dwight Howard double shooting sleeves. I don't understand. It's like, all right, you guys just want to wear long sleeves.
Yeah. Dwight Howard
really must be it.
That. Yeah. Ben Simmons wears a shooting sleeve. I think that's one of the funniest things
very
going right now. Actually, shout out. Speaking of that stuff, who? I can't even draw a blank. Who's the guy that died like a couple weeks ago in Portland? Clifford Robertson.
Cliff Robinson, yes.
Yeah, he was one of the first guys to rock a headband in the 90s, right?
Shout out to Uncle Clifford.
Yeah, the headbands. I remember he was big on them. LeBron, obviously, early on.
Chris Gatlin.
Kareem had the goggles.
Was one of the first.
Kareem had the goggles. Actually, we actually did an episode way back when, just talking about general, like some of our favorite sports
gear.
Like, not really, but just like
signature looks.
Oh
yeah, that's cool.
Like one of the big consensus ones, you'd appreciate this, was Griffey in the 90s with the backwards hat. That was the first time, and that's Ken Griffey Jr.
For
it's
sure.
on his Hall of Fame plaque.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff we talked in basketball, and then guys like Barry Bonds with like the soldier armor worth of like forearm pads that would take him literally first intentional ball. All right, let's get started. As he's going down to first base.
So
but basketball is getting a little oversaturated between shoes,
nuts.
between gear. And then they break into some of the different like sleeved. I know it's a team thing, but the sleeve jerseys and shit like that.
The sleeve jerseys are horrible.
Not a fan. Me neither.
Oh my god,
no.
Big stinky.
Terrible. I don't know who the hell thought of that, but it's terrible.
That's a good question. We'll end here. I promise.
V-neck and oh my god,
there's so many terrible things, and just jerseys in general. Like every team has 6 different jerseys now. What are some of your kind of, whether I guess if you want to consider them throwbacks or not in current? What are some of your favorite NBA jerseys throughout your time that you've seen?
I mean, the go back to the '90s Magic uniforms. Those are pretty. Those are pretty staple '90s
the pinstripes.
Looking pinstripe. Yeah, the star on the shorts. Even the Seattle Sonics, like that green and white and yellow, was a pretty cool.
Yeah, I like those ones.
I liked the we're talking about the '80s and maybe the '90s. The Atlanta Hawks jerseys and uniforms in general with the red. They were
like the Dominique Wilkins ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Web years. Yeah, those are
nice. And then
nice.
the last, they've gotten better this year, but they had those fucking highlighter yellow.
Atlanta's had some crazy fucking jerseys.
Horrendous.
I remember
uniforms.
the
going across.
Yes. Yeah. Stop it.
There's like the Sharif Abdur-Rahim years with like that weird thing down the middle.
Oh my god.
Writing up here.
Yeah, they look like
green and blue.
Like the Seattle Seahawks almost.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Atlanta Hawks.
Right.
And it's always the shittiest teams that
they're Hawks. We're a Hawk. Let's do this.
This has to work.
It's gotta work.
This has conference finals written all over it.
Exactly. But I'm so old. I'm still getting used to the fact that people don't wear white uniforms at home and their colors on the road. Like that's still throwing me off.
I'm with you 100%. And we're both Celtics fans.
Yeah.
Celtics home whites, away greens is my go-to. I think it's classic jerseys of all times. Even like the Lakers started to like switch shit up a little bit like the past few years with the block letters. It's like you're the fucking Lakers.
Celtics
and Lakers. There's teams that don't like Celtics, Lakers, Cowboys, Raiders, whatever. You don't need to do that shit. You were built on that brand.
Red Sox, Yankees.
Red Sox.
They wear the pinstripes, the gray, the same shit since 1920 or whatever. So 1918 or
something like that.
Yeah,
you know why the Yankees had pinstripes? They were the first team to have pinstripes.
I forget.
It's because Babe Ruth was fat and he was told the pinstripes make him look thinner. And then they just kept it.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you guys had a good jersey when you had the Expos.
Yes, yeah, we had good.
Solid
That's an
logo.
Oh
iconic
yeah, I
jersey.
forgot
Yeah.
about that.
That
Red
M-
clothes were fresh. You had paid. You
M
had
was
young
fire.
Pager.
It was
M.
the M that said Montreal
Yeah, that was
Expos
dope.
Baseball, and within the M, that was cool. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That
What do
So
they
when
do
did
with
baby
Olympic
blue.
Stadium now, where they
No, it's still
used to
there.
play?
It's still a piece of shit. It's still there.
I was in Montreal for the first time last summer. I drove
My
by and I was like,
condolences.
"Damn, this is kind of cool." Like I
heard
know the
Montreal's
Expos
great.
used to play here, but do they
Yeah.
still
Everybody who's
hold?
not from Montreal thinks Montreal's great.
Case in point.
Well, I've
sorry.
heard that
That's
that
hilarious.
women like to bare their parts, very famously in that city.
I've heard.
Oh,
I've heard some
striptease?
things. I've
Yeah.
heard
Yeah.
some things. Yeah.
I've
You guys would know
never
being
been one to
tourists.
partake, but
Yeah.
no.
The
What
Magic
Much,
do they
much
still
like
do?
when you live in Orlando, Florida, you don't really go to Disneyland all that, Disney World that often.
Good point.
Or ever.
Yeah, good point.
It's the same
Yeah.
thing when you live in Montreal.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And we talked about that before. What the fuck were we talking about?
But the Olympic Stadium is still
Something
there.
like
It's
Boston
still a
stuff,
rundown
yeah.
piece of shit. They have a roof on it. It's like a tarp. They have car shows at it. They'll have like a.
Okay.
We have a Montreal Alouettes football Canadian football team here. They play there
okay.
sometimes. It's just it's a ridiculous eyesore. It's
So-
really a
Really?
horrible.
It's in
building,
its
yeah.
twilight years. What you're saying?
It was in its twilight years somewhere around 1976. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it like last year when the Raptors won? I mean, I know it's Toronto, but that's basically Canada. Is that what Canada follows in general?
Yeah,
pretty
I
much?
mean,
Just one team.
Montreal and Toronto sort of have a rivalry, especially when it comes
Yeah,
to
that's true.
hockey. So,
Right, right.
You know, the Maple Leafs and the Canadians have a
Fuck
huge
the
rivalry. But it really, I think when the Raptors won, it really felt like the whole country was behind them.
That's why I
the first
asked.
time
I
I've ever
agree.
felt, because there aren't many basketball fans, or there weren't many. There are now, but basketball hasn't been huge here in Canada until the Raptors kind of came along. So
Right.
it was nice to see sort of everybody rallying around the same team. Yeah, I
Yeah,
wasn't,
that's cool.
but it was good for them. I was happy for them, but I can't lie
Right.
and say I'm a Raptors fan.
So I know you said you don't follow current NBA as much as you did. So do you follow the Bulls? Obviously it's a completely different team.
I
back in the
do,
day.
but I do follow the Knicks. Sadly, I do follow the Knicks more than I do the Bulls.
Yeah.
And it
Oh,
just every
sucks.
year gets worse and worse. And
true.
so I don't know. They got RJ Barrett as their top player now, so I don't know. What,
For now.
Hey, they almost had Durant and Kyrie.
it almost means absolutely nothing.
They went across the street. But
They
close
went
enough.
across the street.
They almost had Zion.
Yeah, almost had a lot
Almost
of good
had
things.
a lot of things.
Yeah, they almost had a lot of good things. They
Yep.
almost
That's
have
Patrick
a
Ewing.
team.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man. All right, cool. Let's we'll wrap up here. Let you get back, Sean. But great shit tonight, by the way. Thanks
appreciate
again
it.
for hopping on with us, man.
A lot of fun being on, guys. Thank you.
But before we let you go, I want to make sure our listeners, where's the best place to follow you online, follow the podcast?
You can catch me
anywhere else?
at scollar23 at OG Support Group as well, along with my friend Brian.
It's a great,
and our
great
other
handle.
guys. I'm at the Sneaker Podcast on Instagram, or just follow us. You can listen to our Sneaker Podcast on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio app, Podbean, wherever you can find a podcast. You can hear the Sneaker Podcast. So,
And again, leave a rating, leave a review.
yeah, smash
Subscribe.
that thumbs up. Is that a thing? I don't
Smash
even know
that
if that's
subscribe button.
Yeah. Or else.
Listen to
or
us.
else.
Or
Yeah.
else. Also,
Sean's was a plug.
Notification bell
Sophie's
is a
is a
notification bell a thing? I don't, is that a YouTube? I don't even know.
do it all. I don't care
I
if it
don't
takes
know.
up too much space on people's
That's right.
phones.
We're on the
Do it all,
FM dial, I think.
We'll
We're on the
have
FM dial.
I'd also like
We'll
to
have Reddit
offer,
or go
since
through
I'm only about 3 hours from 3.5 hours from the border.
Yeah.
If you ever need a tour guide for New Hampshire for some fucking reason, just hit me up as soon as you cross the border.
As soon as they open the border.
Good
Yeah.
point. Yeah,
Because
you don't
right
want to
now
come
it's
here
closed.
anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'd love.
stinks.
I've never been to Boston. My wife and I have always talked about going to Boston, so I'd love to come visit you guys
Yeah.
down your neck of the woods. And say hello.
Give it some time. You don't want to.
Oh yeah. I mean, once COVID's over, yeah. Once you realize COVID's a thing, I'll come down.
Definitely. Good shit. So again, make sure you follow Sean. He's got a lot of great stuff going on. Everyone else, thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking with us, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Take it easy.